In today's video, I will be continuing on my theme of British Airborne legends, and today I'll be talking about the first black British paratrooper to land in Normandy on D-Day with British Airborne Forces. His name, Sgt Sidney Cornell. Born in Portsmouth in 1914, Cornell's father was a former circus acrobat who was originally from the United States. His mother was from Somerset. Sidney married a woman named Eileen in 1934. Along with their children, they lived a fairly comfortable life in Portsmouth. That changed, however, in 1939, when the Second World War broke out. Sidney, like many men, wished to do his part, and he volunteered for army service. He joined the Royal Army Service Corp. The men of this unit would be responsible for land transport, administration, the supply of food, water, fuel, and domestic materials such as clothing, furniture, and stationery, as well as the supply of technical and military equipment. The Service Corps' modern equivalent is the Royal Logistic Corps, or the RLC. Sidney, however, became tired of this job, and he volunteered for service within the new Airborne Forces in 1943. Sidney took to airborne training immediately, and in October he attended RAF Ringway for parachute training. His report read, "Best performer in his section, intelligent, willing, cool and keen." Upon completion of his paratrooper training, Sidney was posted to B Company, the 7th Parachute Battalion. Initially, this battalion was part of the 1st Airborne Division, the division which took part in Operation Market Garden, but it was moved to the 6th Airborne Division. As I've previously mentioned, airborne forces were a new concept during the Second World War, and I will just explore and discuss some of the usage of airborne forces during the early years of the war. With the war in its infancy, German paratroopers were deployed in company strength during the invasion of Norway in April 1940. They captured key airfields and bridges. But it was during the invasion of the Low Countries that German airborne forces became the tip of the spear. They captured key Belgian fortresses at Aben Amel, as well as key bridges in Holland, which allowed German panzer forces to move rapidly. In May 1941, the Germans dropped their paratroopers on the island of Crete. Their losses, however, were considered unacceptable by German high command, despite their successful capture of the island. And after this, the Germans decided to stop deploying their airborne forces in mass formation. Right around the same time that the Allies decided to create their own airborne army after being impressed by the German airborne capability. The Allies dropped airborne units into North Africa and Sicily with mixed results, but in June 1944, Allied airborne forces would face their toughest battle yet during Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy. Sidney Cornell and the men of the 7th Parachute Battalion were tasked with capturing key Caen and Orne bridges. Their drop, however, was chaotic, and many of the men of the battalion were scattered around Normandy or landed on the completely wrong drop zone. Cornell was the B Company runner, a dangerous and risky task that he excelled in. He was key in supporting his company commander, Major Neal, during the clearance of La Mariette Woods. He also provided great help to Major Neal's replacement, Major Keane, when B Company attacked German forces occupying a farm in Bois de Boivin. During the company's time in Normandy, Cornell earned an excellent reputation of being incredibly brave and having tremendous courage under fire. For his bravery and conduct during the Normandy campaign, Cornell was awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal in February 1945. An excerpt from his citation reads, "Cornell repeatedly carried messages through the most heavy and accurate enemy mortar and machine gun fire. 4 times wounded in action, this soldier has never been evacuated and carries on his job cheerfully and efficiently. Nothing surpasses Cornell's effort. He is a truly magnificent parachutist, and I cannot recommend him too strongly for a decoration." After the Normandy campaign, Cornell took part in the fighting during the Ardennes Offensive in late 1944. He then took part in Operation Varsity in March 1945. By this point, he'd been promoted to sergeant and had command of his own section. Operation Varsity was the largest airborne assault to be carried out in one day and in one location in history. It involved landing 16,000 paratroopers over the River Rhine to create a bridgehead for the Allied invasion of Germany. On the 7th of April 1945, the men of the battalion were tasked with capturing a vital bridge near the German town of Neustadt. Once the men landed, time was of the essence, as the locals had warned them that the Germans had rigged the bridge with explosives. The battalion commander ordered his men to get across the bridge as soon as possible and destroy the German garrison defending it. A small group of paratroopers made it across the bridge when suddenly the explosives were detonated. Sadly, Sidney Cornell was one of the men caught in the explosion, and he died just a month before the end of the war. Cornell was initially buried with the other men in makeshift graves near the town. He now rests alongside other Allied troops at Becklingen War Cemetery in Germany. That concludes today's video. I hope you all learnt something new, and if you did, drop me a comment and a like and a subscribe as well. Thank you all. We'll see you all in the next one. Cheery bye.